everyone, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today's video is step or part number 2 of our Christmas tree skirt crochet along. In step number 1 we did the body portion of our tree skirt, and you should be up through row 25 at this point. If you want your tree skirt to be bigger, you can do as many rows as you would like to. And if you would like it to be smaller, say you have a little tabletop Christmas tree that you want to put a little Christmas tree skirt under, you can do less rows. It's just fine. And that's the way that I designed this pattern, so that you can adjust it as needed. This particular size tree skirt I designed to use for my 8-foot Christmas tree, and it's the perfect size for that. But if you prefer a bigger skirt, like I said, stitch more rows. If you prefer a shorter one, stitch less rows. And so we've completed step number 1, and today we're going to do step number 2. And step number 2 is going to be our solid rows along the edge. And so you're going to need colors to match what you decided to use for your Christmas tree skirt. If you want to know what we did on step number 1, you can click that link that's underneath the video in that description box. There'll be both a video link for step number 1 and the blog link that has pictures and the pattern completely written out for you. So there's 2 options to help you on your way with step number 1. All right, let's talk about what you're going to need for step number 2. For step number 2, you're going to need 3 different colors of solid yarn. These are also Craftsmart from Michaels. The green one is called Ivy. The red one is called Bright Red, but to me it has more of a cranberry look, and it matches perfectly with my red and green yarns. And then you're also going to need a white, and we'll be using this white for our white rows as well as the trim when we do the snowball trim or bobble trim on step number 3. You'll need about 2 ounces of your green, about 2 ounces of your red, and then you'll need about 3 ounces of your white, because we're doing 2 rows of each color and then coming back in and doing this bobble trim on step number 3. We're going to be stitching again with our eye hook, which is 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle just for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. Now, of course, if you're doing your Christmas tree skirt in different colors, you can choose whatever colors that you want to, of course. What I'm doing is I'm going to do 2 rows of green, 2 rows of red, and 2 rows of white trim. And then on our step number 3, I'll show you how to do what I'm calling the snowball trim, but it's actually the bobble trim. Now, I'm not going to be doing the demonstration on my actual Christmas tree skirt because I've already completed it. What I'm going to do is show you on the swatch that I was working with in step number 1 and show you how to do those trims, only I'm doing it on my small swatch. So keep in mind you'll have more stitches than I do. But at this point, the amount of stitches really isn't an issue, because we'll just follow the stitches that we already have. If you added more rows or if you have less rows, the technique is the same. Once you have completed the amount of rows that you want for your Christmas tree skirt, here's my last double crochet, and instead of chaining 3, we're going to join in one of our solid colors, and my first solid color is green, and we're going to chain 1 instead of 3. All right, so now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do a trim that's really simple and makes a nice solid color on our Christmas tree skirt. So we'll go in our first double crochet or stitch and stitch a single crochet. and then we'll chain 1, we'll skip the next stitch and single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and single crochet in the next. And that's what we'll do all the way around our Christmas tree skirt. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. Now, when you come to your spots where you have your chain 2 space, you'll just treat those chains as 2 stitches. All right, so chain 1, skip the next double crochet or stitch, and then single crochet in that next stitch, which is a chain. Then we'll chain 1, skip that chain, and single crochet in the next stitch. All right, and that's the way it works all the way around your Christmas tree skirt. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, and we'll do this working all the way around the entire edge of our Christmas tree skirt. Now, we're not going to stitch up here yet, okay? We're going to do our solid rows first, and then we complete those 3 rows. It's actually going to be 6 rows with 3 different colors. Then we'll come back in and do this particular, so it's not a rough edge, okay? Alrighty, we'll end up coming up, coming around, and coming back down, so it has a nice finished edge. All right, but for this row, we're single crocheting, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next, and repeat all the way around just the bottom edge of our Christmas tree skirt. So this is how that first row of trim should look. And of course, this is a swatch. I did this to show you how to do the pattern with our swatch. Now, when you get to the end, you're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're just going to repeat what we just did for the next row. We're not changing colors yet. We chained 1. We're going to single crochet in that first single crochet, chain 1, and skip that space where we put our chain 1 and single crochet in the single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the single crochet. And so what's happening is we're basically skipping the chain 1 spaces, okay? So chain 1 and single crochet in the single crochet. Chain 1, skip the chain, single crochet in the single crochet. Chain 1, skip, and single crochet in the single crochet. And again, when you come around these corners where we stitched our chain 2 spaces, you just ignore that and go by the stitches that we stitched. So chain 1, skip the chain 1 and single crochet in the next single crochet. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 and single crochet in the single crochet. All right, and that gives you a nice smooth turn through those corners. And it helps it sort of lay just a little bit more rounded. You're going to have the shape, of course, just a little bit of where those chain 1 space or chain 2 spaces are, but it's still going to move smoothly around those corners and sort of smooth it out with this particular stitch. So we're just going to repeat stitching single crochet in the single crochet, chain 1, skip the chain 1 from that previous row, and then single crochet in the single crochet. So basically you're single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, just like we did on the previous row. And you'll repeat this working all the way around that edge of your Christmas tree skirt. I completed that second row of single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat all the way around. Now, you need to make sure that your single crochets are stitched in single crochets. That's how you're going to keep it nice and lined up. So I have 2 rows of my solid green around the edge. And here is where I did my last single crochet and chained one. I'm going to take that chain one out because I'm changing colors. So I'll cut off my green and bring in this beautiful cranberry red color. And then I'll chain one. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat what we just did on this row. So we'll turn our work, we'll single crochet in that first single crochet, chain one, then single crochet in the next single crochet, chain one, we're skipping the chain ones in between and stitching a single crochet in our single crochets. So chain one, skip the chain one, and single crochet in the next single crochet, just like we did on that previous row. So basically, we're repeating what we did on that previous row. Chain one, single crochet in the next single crochet, chain one, skip the chain one, single crochet in the next single crochet, and repeat all the way around the bottom edge of our Christmas tree skirt. I completed that row with my bright cranberry red, and again I'm using a swatch, not my actual Christmas tree skirt, but it's done exactly the same. This is just smaller. All right, now when you get to the end, we single crochet in our last single crochet, chain one and turn, and now we're just going to repeat what we've been doing. Single crochet in the single crochet, chain one, skip the chain one space, and single crochet in the chain one. Something that you might notice if you're stitching a little bit tighter is that it might seem like it's starting to curl up some. Do not worry about that on this row. Go ahead and stitch this row the same. On the next row is where we're going to change it up a little bit so that it lays nice and flat. On this row, we're just repeating what we've been doing, and then we'll make some adjustments on the next row to help our Christmas tree skirt lay nice and flat. All right, so on this second row of our second color, on our trim, we're just repeating what we've been stitching. Single crochet in the single crochet, chain one, skip the chain one stitch, and single crochet in the next single crochet. And again, we're going to work this all the way around that bottom edge of our Christmas tree skirt. I completed that second row of red, that cranberry red, and it looks really pretty, and I really love how this trim works. Okay, so now I'm finished with the red, and I'm going to bring in my white. And so we'll bring it in and chain one. There we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in that first single crochet, and now we're going to chain two. On these two rows here, or these four rows with the two colors, we only chained one, but we're going to chain two and then single crochet in the next single crochet. Chain two, and then single crochet in the single crochet. And this is going to give just a little bit more room so that it causes your Christmas tree skirt to lay pretty. We don't want it bunching up or curling up on us. And so it's the same as the other two or other four rows with the other two colors. The only difference is we're chaining two instead of one. All right, and still make sure that your single crochets are stitched in your single crochets. So chain two, skip the one, chain one, and single crochet in the single crochet, and repeat all the way around the bottom of our tree skirt. And that's the way that it should look. It still has that fun little texture look to it, but it just gives us a little bit more space by adding those extra chain ones in there so that it lays pretty. And so what we're doing is single crochet, chain 2, skip that chain 1, and single crochet in the single crochet. That way all our stitches are stitched in the single crochet, and you get this nice little look on your Christmas tree skirt. And we'll repeat this, working all the way around the edge of our Christmas tree skirt. I completed that first white row on my Christmas tree skirt, and you can see how it helps it lay nice and flat and pretty. All right, so, and remember, again, I'm working with the swatch, so you'll have a whole lot more stitches. We've stitched our last single crochet, chain 1, and now we're going to turn. And we're just going to repeat what we just did one more time with our white yarn. So we'll single crochet in the single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 2, and repeat all the way across, again, the bottom of our Christmas tree skirt. So that second row of our solid white is complete. Isn't that pretty how that lays? It's just super pretty. And what we're going to do next is we're going to evenly single crochet up the inside, around the edge, and then back down over here. All right? We're not going to be doing chain 1s in between or chain 2s. And again, I do have a little bit of weaving in to do here. But I'm going to do that after I'm done doing my single crochets, because I want to try to catch some of those tails of yarn when I do this, and then I can also come back in and weave that in. So I'm going to chain 1, and we're just going to evenly single crochet up this side. And we want to try to go in the stitches and not the holes so that it lays nice and pretty. And I'm going to stitch over those tails of yarn as much as I can. We don't want it to be too bulky, but I like to do this. That way when I'm done, I can come back in and weave those in with my needle. And it just helps it stay better, in my opinion. All right, so I'm just going to single crochet up the side evenly, trying to get in the sides of those stitches and not holes. Going through those stitches. And of course I continued on with my white, and the reason that we're going to do that is because we're going to come up here, like I said, come around the inside, come across here, and then join here, and then we'll be all ready to add our snowball or bobble trim, and we won't have to do any cutting or adding in. I like to do the least amount of adding in as possible, so I have the least amount of ends to weave in. And since we're using white for the bobble trim, because I want it to look like snowballs, it works out great. All right, now there isn't a set number of stitches on the side. You just want it to lay pretty and have a nice even row. And I'll come back in with my needle, like I said, and weave those ends in. All righty, so once you get to the corner, you're going to add a chain 1 and turn and add a single crochet in that same stitch. And that's going to help that move around that corner nicely. And then you'll come to the inside here and you'll be able to have a stitch to put in all your single crochets. And you'll just put a single crochet in each one of those stitches, working around that inside edge of our Christmas tree skirt. And we'll continue to work this all the way around till we get back over here. I placed a single crochet in each of those stitches around that top opening, which brings us to our next corner. We're going to chain 1 and stitch another single crochet in that corner, and then we'll evenly single crochet down this side. Until we reach this corner down here. And again, we want to try to go in the stitches and not the holes if at all possible. You know, there might be a place where you'll have to put a stitch in a hole, but you want to try not to, just to give it a much more even and sharp appearance. All right, so I'm just going to work down to this corner, finishing up with that white. So I finished stitching evenly across to this corner, and I'm not going to tie off my yarn. Now, if you're worried that it's going to come undone until we can get to the next step, which is step 3 to do that snowball or bobble trim, you can add an extra little chain 1 and snug that down. I always pull a great big loop, then grab a stitch marker and put it in that loop and make sure it's one that closes. And that's going to keep that loop from coming undone till we can get back to it in step number 3. The last thing that we need to do right now, though, is these ends. And so we'll just grab our needle and weave these ends in and go ahead and tidy this up. One thing to remember is we've got several different colors of yarn here. So make sure when you're weaving those in, like these green ones, weave it in the green. The red ones, weave it in the red. The white, weave it in the white. And of course, this one here, I'm weaving in my main color. And it's really important because you don't want a spot of green showing through on the front side on your red, okay? So just go ahead and tidy that up, and we'll be all ready for step number 3. So today on step number 2, we did our 2 rows of green, our 2 rows of red, and our 2 rows of white. And then we came across and stitched along this edge, around the neck, and across the top edge of our Christmas tree skirt. Here's my actual Christmas tree skirt. This is just the swatch. I realize that this is a lot to do in just a little bit of time. If you don't have time to do this, it'll always be here on my YouTube channel and blog, so you can always come back to it when you have time. Another thing is to remember, as we're doing these steps, you can pause the video and catch up later. All right? So, we've completed step 1 and step 2. The last step that we're going to do is step 3, and that is this beautiful bobble edge that I'm calling snowball edge. And it can work on lots of different projects, not just a Christmas tree skirt. And we're going to do this on Friday. Today is Wednesday. We'll do that in 2 days on our Friday Fun Day, and we'll learn how to do the bobble stitch on our Christmas tree skirt. So I'll see you for step number 3.